So, good evening to all of you from Anandas from North Carolina. And as it was requested, here we are sharing a few words about my recent meeting with Father Richard Rohr in New Mexico. It was not my plan to do any video about that, but after I shared the picture yesterday of our meeting with him, and even today we share some album with pictures, some devotees, a good number of them requested, please, if we can know a little bit more how the meeting went and what did you share with him and so on. So in the service of all of you, a little bit about our meeting there. But before, let's share a few words about introduction, like preliminary, what happened before the meeting, how the meeting came to be. So as you may know, from this series or even from decades ago, for those who know me for that long, I've always been very fond of Christian mysticism, and I found always very naturally like as a tradition that very beautifully complements and nourishes in my case, my own Gaudiya sadhana conception approach to practice. For decades, I was especially fond of Thomas Merton, as you may know, a very special monk and mystical, and someone very exemplary in terms of interfaith dialogue and allowing out other traditions to nourish our own prospect. So eventually in time, someone like Thomas Merton took me towards someone like Richard Rohr, whom I knew him for the last maybe 4 or 5 years. Hearing a little bit here about his exposition on the Enneagram and some other books. I started reading his Falling Upward and then continue with other works like Everything Belongs and The Naked Now, and more recently some other books like The Universal Christ and so on. So especially I was inspired by Richard Rohr's style of presentation, very deep, very reflective, very introspective, very critical in a healthy way toward his own tradition, but inviting in a very merciful way his own tradition to upgrade to a deeper level of practice and conception, very well acquainted with other traditions as well, and taking the essence of those in connection to his own tradition, and expressing himself in a very honest, and natural, and a spontaneous way. So you could, when you read someone's writing, when you feel that you are getting to know the person by his or her own writing, that's a very interesting symptom and experience that I have with him. So basically, knowing him, and especially during the last, let's say, half a year or so, that I have been going through some unique dynamics, as some of you may know, I found some special shelter and inspiration in the teachings and message of Father Richard Rohr, and by going through some of his books and daily newsletter and so on. So I felt some special arrangement by Krishna for me to get in contact with him. So the point is, I was here in North Carolina, let's say like almost half a year ago, probably 5 months ago, and I decided to write to him a letter, handwritten letter, and I asked Sumati here to write it for me. I wrote the letter online and I sent it to her so she could put her handwriting, which is much more beautiful than mine, which is almost impossible to understand. So I sent some letter to the address of Richard Rohr's place, the Center for Action and Contemplation, without any expectation, to be honest. I mean, I was not expecting even that he may reply to me, that he may even read the letter, what to speak of him inviting me to visit him there. So I just wrote that letter as trying to do my part, which was to express gratitude from what I've received from him in this last period of my life. Basically that, to express my gratitude, to open myself in service if at any point there will be some chance of reciprocating with what I received from him. And of course, if at any moment there was going to be any chance of meeting him, of course I will be more than happy. But again, I was not even expecting that he may read the letter, because I checked in his website, in the website of the Center for Action and Contemplation, and there they say that Richard is so busy and he's at the last basically chapter of his life, so to say. He has no time for receiving or reading letters or gifts and so on. So please, if possible, they are requesting not to send those. You can imagine he's quite well known, quite famous, so probably many people are sending him on a daily basis, emails and letters and gifts. So you have a limited amount of time capacity to deal with them. But nonetheless, I transgressed the instructions of the website and sent that letter. So we sent that to him, and again, without any expectation of even the letter arriving to the place, him reading the letter, responding to the letter, and so on. So 1 month had passed, and a second month passed, and a third month passed, and I was again totally, I had forgotten that I sent the letter, so to say. I was not expecting any reply. So after like 3 months, so to say, of my sending the letter, I'm checking my email, and I send one email that says Richard Rohr, and the title is "Thank you." So I entered to the email, and I received I realized that he has read my letter, but somehow he told me, "I don't know how your letter. I just was able to find your letter these days after 3 months that it was sent. So somehow it remained hidden somewhere, and he was able just to read that a few days before he wrote to me, which was 3 months after I sent it." So he very beautifully and lovingly replied to my email, to my letter. Sorry, I put my email in that letter just in case, so he wrote to me. And he was very kind and very reciprocal and appreciative of my letter. And he told me, if at any point you happen to be nearby, just pay a visit to me. I will love to meet you. So again, I was not planning to go to New Mexico. I was not nearby, but he opened the doors for that. So that was it. That was enough for for me and for Bhaktiraz and Sumati here as well. And we opened ourselves for the idea of going to visit him to New Mexico, to make a road trip, 3-day drive from North Carolina to New Mexico. So that was the case. That was the background for for how we get to meet with him. So I confirmed to him by email that we were organizing that road trip. So we organized a particular date that he will be there, that was available, possible for us to go there. And basically that was it. We made a road trip from North Carolina till New Mexico. It took like 3 days. So we arrived on one evening, and the next day it was the idea that we were going to meet him in the morning, the first day. So that was the case. So we met him like, let's say 10 in the morning, 10:30, first day. And we spent with him the first day 2 hours in the CAC, which is another way of summarizing Center for Action and Contemplation, which is his main project, so to say. You can find that more in cac.org. That's the website of the place. So he received us very kindly in the CAC. The whole interaction with him, just to put it in a context, was very natural, very organic, very normal, very human, very deep. He's a very simple person. He's a very humble person. He's a very attentive person, considerable person, very radically personal person. Remember, he's very well known. He's a really world-renowned author, famous person who has been with different personalities, so to say. But he will repeat over and over again to me personally by email, "I'm quite ordinary. I hope you are not disappointed with me." So, of course, all those things added charm to the equation, to have that contrast. Not only famous, because you can be famous and you can be not very deep as a person, but what if you are world-renowned famous, you are very wise, very deep, very knowledgeable, and in combination with all that, you are humble and simple, and you don't take yourself too seriously. So for me, that was very, very inspiring to see such an example of an elder setting such precedent. And he's in a very delicate stage in his life. I mean, now he's doing very well. He told us that his health was improving a lot, but he's now about to be in a few weeks 80 years old, and he has gone through 4 cancers. And a few months ago, like half a year ago, he was thinking he was going to leave his body. He has one cancer and it was healed, A second cancer, he was healed. He was telling that to us. Fourth cancer, a few months ago, he was ready to leave. And suddenly he told us, God healed me again. So I'm here just like whatever you want, I'm willing. So his health was much better when we met him. So in our first meeting, again, we were invited by him to go to a particular room with him. And we sat in a circle, Bhakti Rasa Samati, myself, and Richard. He prefers to be called Richard. And not Father Richard Rohr, but anyhow, as you may feel more comfortable. Opie was there also, which is Richard's dog, as you saw maybe in the pictures. And we sat, and the whole meeting began. Richard invited us to close our eyes, and he invoked some initial spontaneous prayer, invoking blessings for our meeting, for whatever was going to happen at that point, which nobody had a clue about it. Nobody came with any agenda, or we didn't came with any list of topics or things to accomplish. So it was very, very magical in that sense also. Everyone was really open to whatever it had to happen by Bhagavan's arrangement. So he made a very moving and touching initial prayer, everyone with eyes closed before starting the conversation, which I felt very very mystical. Even if you are about to sit with a few friends to talk about something, why not starting the meeting with a few moments of communion and deep prayer to allow God's will to flow in that particular meeting? So that was the case. And that happened. The initial prayer were pretty fine for all that unfolded after that. So we started our conversation, and actually he was very willing to hear from us. No, he was not, again, in the mood of hear me and Richard Rohr, look, all that I have to teach you, but just tell me about you. Who are you? Where are you coming? You're making all this long trip. He was telling everyone in the CAC, look, these guys are coming all the way from North Carolina to doing a road trip. He was impressed by that, so to say. He was appreciative of the sacrifice that we tried to make in order to, it was a pilgrimage for us, basically. So he will ask us also repeatedly, like, what do you expect here, coming here? Because I imagine also so many people may go and visit him with some expectations or with some agenda regarding him. So he was asking more than once, asking us, so what's your expectations coming here, meeting with me? And we were like, there are no expectations. I mean, the expectations was to meet him, just to have a personal association and express our gratitude and offer ourselves for whatever we may be of service and reciprocation to all that we have received from him, but nothing quote unquote beyond that, which for us was pretty much enough. So we were not going there to trying to preach to him, to convert him, to get some context from him, to be famous like him, or to whatever, organize some public talk with him. It was just meeting him intimately, personally, face to face, heart to heart, and for us that was more than enough. So he was impressed by that, basically, like, or appreciative of that. No? So he was charmed by the fact that, someone may go, I mean, not to speak up well about ourselves, it was just how it happened to be. So then we continued talking, and he shared with us different topics. For 2 hours we talked that first day. So the topics went pretty, again, flowing and spontaneous. There was not any agenda or any plan of let's speak about this and next about that. He shared with that, of course, apart from us sharing a little bit of our history and how we came to Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which were our present particular situation and our inspiration with him. He also shared from his side about his life. He recently visited the Pope in the Vatican a few months ago. So he also shared with us details of that visit and interaction. He shared how he met many more years in the past Thomas Merton, one day that he was with Mother Teresa of Calcutta there. He shared with us details of his personal journey as a Franciscan and different struggles he went through in his life, practice, monastic life, and whatever experience. We also shared with him about our concept of radical personalism in connection with Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and he really liked the notion of radical personalism. I mean, he really likes everything radical, and he speaks a lot about radical grace and many other radicals, so he felt at home with the concept of radical personalism. We also spoke about the Enneagram. He's quite fond of that, so he was not able to contain himself in regards to asking us which is our number and trying to analyze a little bit that section. What else? We shared, well, which are our vows as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. He shared with us which are his vows as a Franciscan. And again, so many parallels or close parallels and commonalities, not only on a philosophical level, but also in terms of the situation of our tradition, of our communities at present, even the struggles that both of the communities are happening. It's funny because I was telling him some things, many of those I'm talking now in my series on radical personalism, about certain things that I personally feel in our Gaudiya community we need to update, to upgrade, to deepen. And he will say, wow, we in our Christian community need to work on those same things. And then he will share with me some aspects of details that he feels in the Christian community at large. Still there is a disjointed situation, and I couldn't but, oh yeah, that's how we have our own version of that as well. So in that way, it was this like kind of back and forth when both of us will, like, at the end of the day conclude, well, these patterns are there in every single community. We will always find them because there will always be certain practitioners with certain level of conception. And again, not to condemn any of those. We probably are one of them, or we have been through that, whatever the case. So just to understand that in a more realistic and compassionate way, and without being horrified by that, despite we are trying to make some contribution in connection to that. So that was one of the main topics and back and forth in our conversations always. Also, he shared with us some of the work he's doing regarding some refugees they are bringing from other countries to the US. So they are providing shelter and place for people coming from other places. And in this way, his mood was really relaxed, very intimate, very friendly. In a few minutes, we were there with him on equal terms, so to say, although he remained an elder, but his mood was such that we were naturally driven, and there was a natural flow in the conversation. His mood allows for hours and hours of spontaneous deep talk without forcing anything, basically. So those were the first 2 hours, so to say, where we were talking to him on that particular room. And then after that talk, we went out to the reception room of the Center for Action and Contemplation. Before that, he took us to the main layers or rooms and places in the CAC and introduced us to the members of the staff, those who were present there. So he was very kind and showed us his different rooms and his own office and his favorite pictures. There in the office, there were some deity of Mahadev, Nataraj dancing as well. So everyone was there present. Then when we went to the reception room, there are all his different books present there. He wrote more than 30 books already. So he told us, just pick a book you like and I give it to you as a gift. Actually, he said, pick all the books you want. Of course, we tried not to be as too abusive, so we picked one book each. So he gifted that to all of us. And meanwhile, we were there in the reception room, which is the place where the visitors used to come. And newcomers will go there to buy books or to subscribe themselves to some seminar or activities. They have different activities there, both online and in presence. So many people were there and suddenly they found him there. He's not usually present, Richard Rohr, in the reception room. So many of them were astounded and admired to see him, in awe. But he was completely, again, natural in talking to them and simple and ask and sang. They were with their books of Richard Rohr going to buy books from him. So he will ask them, do you want me to sign the book? And they were like, oh, yes. And he will naturally inquire about their lives and what's your name or where do you come from. But again, with genuine interest, not like a mere forced formality. So that was also very touching example to witness, someone, again, of his caliber, and at the same time, actually being of his caliber naturally will create that spontaneous empathy and connection with anyone from moment one. Also, something that impacted us was to see how the staff at the Center for Action and Contemplation will relate to Richard Rohr, which will be, of course, he's the founder of the Center for Action and Contemplation that was founded 35 years ago. He's the main one there, the center there, so to say. But at the same time, everyone treated him in a very friendly way, like a friend. Again, he's the elder, he's the center, that's still there. But at the same time, everyone relates to him in a very natural way, with intimacy, with affection, with confidence. And you can feel that he himself created that culture. He himself, I will say, established that as something that is also sustainable for him. And he wants that. You can feel that he likes to be treated as an equal. He doesn't like to be put on the pedestal and just forced some constant worship and maintain himself in a position of whatever, untouchability or whatever. So in that sense also that was very inspiring. In that connection also he's now, as I mentioned, he's almost having 80 years old. So he's entering his Antilila, so to say, the last chapters of his life, and he has delegated all his different roles and positions in the CAC to new generations. So for me that was also very inspiring to see he's not like an old person who clings till the very last breath to his position, to his influence, to his telling people what to do and how to do, but he's in a very natural and humbling way, acknowledging the need for delegating, for passing the baton to the next generation, and he remains there witnessing and accompanying as an elder in that particular transition moment, something which I personally feel we as Gaudians need to to improve and incorporate a lot, and we can learn a lot from these kind of examples. So in brief, yeah, he's really embody, if I have to like reduce him to one word, maybe that one will be elder or elderness. No? He embodies very beautifully this principle of elderness, which includes ideas like a very peaceful person, a very self-satisfied person, a very wise person, a very deep, compassionate person, a very attentive person, considerate, kind, caring, experienced. And again, I'm not feeling at all that I'm exaggerating and I'm flattering him by saying all the things. So basically, that was the first meeting on our first day, and he expressed to us, "I would like to share more with you." That was the first day. So I expressed to him, well, we would like to, if you would like, we would like to cook something for you and invite you to have lunch with us or dinner, whatever was better for him. So we arranged that. He agreed that it would be nicer. We offered to go to his place and cook, but he chose to come to our place. So that was established for the next day. I think it was on a Saturday. The first meeting was on a Friday, and the next day, Saturday, for lunch, he will come. So we organized that for the next day, where he will spend with us almost double of time. We spent together 4 hours or more. So so we went and picked him in the CAC by car, and then brought him with our place, with him and with Opie, with the dog. It was like a 10-minute drive in Albuquerque. That's the name of the city where the Center for Action and Contemplation is. So we honor Prasad. He loved Prasad, to be honest. He especially liked the sweet rice, but everything. He liked the shak, he liked the rice, he liked the halava, everything. He was acquainted with Indian cuisine. He had been to India 4 times, he told us. He loved the experience of India. He really appreciates the essence, depth present in Indian as a civilization, so to say. So he was really open to all that the Indian tradition and culture has to offer. So he has an idea of our particular tradition, Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He has mentioned Krishna consciousness, for example, in his book Falling Upward, and I came to know that he has mentioned it in some other publications he has made. So it was not that he was not at all acquainted with our particular tradition. And again, he's someone who is very well educated and open to learn from different traditions, not only Christianity and its different denominations, but Judaism, Buddhism, Sufi traditions, Hinduism in general, and even Gaudiya Vaishnavism in particular. In fact, I had the chance to share with him a few things. Again, I was not in a campaign of I'll make him hear the Bhagavatam and I'll whatever, try to give him bhakti samskars for our tradition so he's kidnapped to Golok at some point. Nothing like that. I was there more as a student, as a junior, open to be filled and blessed, but also, of course, willing to share whatever it may be available to share. So, for example, he was talking to me about the Trinity. He really likes the notion of the Trinitarian conception of God in Christianity. He has written a whole book about that, which is called The Divine Dance. And he likes to talk about God there as a flow and as a basically sacred circle dance. So, of course, I couldn't avoid telling, well, we have our own sacred circle dance in our tradition. That's called the Rasa Lila. So I described to him about Rasa Lila, and he really appreciated that. At one point, he was seeing a picture of our deities here, Gaur Radha Madhava, and he was saying, oh, that's your Trinity, he will say. So again, he was open to recognize the similar patterns present, embedded in the essence of every tradition. We also talked about other topics like the divine feminine, because he also speaks about that. Also, I had the chance to share some notions about the idea of a Nara Lila, of a human-like conception of God for us Gaudiyas. We talked about reincarnation, although we agreed to disagree. Again, it's not that we agreed at every single point we were sharing, but that's a beautiful experience as well. When we can share with someone and you are clearly disagreeing on something, but that's in the context of deep respect and appreciation, and each one with their own depth of explaining why they have their particular opinion. What else? On that particular day, he shared with us about his meeting with Brené Brown, who is a famous author and scholar, especially on topics like vulnerability, shame, and guilt, and so on. He also shared with us well, his own experience with people who do not agree with the way he conveys the teaching. Maybe you may not know, but some people will publicly say that, yeah, he's like a new age person because he's, for them, too liberal, or say things that apparently are not in the scripture, which actually are in the scripture. And we know those patterns, like when someone is like him in what Jung will call the second half of life, those who are in the first half of life, without bad intention, but won't be able to understand or to appreciate the vision, the content, the flexibility, the depth, the breadth of someone who is more mature. So he shared with us how he was dealing with some of the ones who criticized him and so on. We really emphasize this difference between ascending religion and descending religion, and how immature religion is all about ascending and trying to meritocracy and thinking from our ego place of an effort-based idea of, if I do this, this will happen. If I do like this, if I follow this formula, God will bless me. I will ascend by my own will, which at the end of the day still you are trying to control and to manipulate reality according to what you are thinking how it should be. That's ascending religion. Well, descending religion has more to do to go down, to ground yourself, to go to your very depths, to the dark side of your journey, and to be a human to begin with, as we always spoke before, trying to be overtly transcendental. So we found many common points in both traditions in that connection. He also shared some thoughts in this connection about his possible next book, although he was not sure if he will write another book, but since his health has improved quite a lot, he's now thinking about that, and many people from his intimate circle are kind of not forcing him, but just inviting him to write something else. So he would like to write about how the many prophets in the Bible in one way began part of their narrative in a more, conventional or dogmatic way, but in time you can see the shift and how their presentation became way more leaned on the side of mercy and not so much justice and depth, instead of just a rigid following of rules. Love above law, so to say. So he's thinking about that. He's doing some research. So let's see if we will have another further book, one more book from Richard. Also, he very nicely shared which was his particular relationship with his mentors. They had mentors in the Franciscan order. Of course, it's not in the same mood and dynamics like we may have with the guru, but he explained the principle that and the connection. And we analyzed the connection between that and the guru-disciple dynamics in our Gaudiya tradition. So also he described his present prayer, which he calls gazing prayer. So he's in a stage in his life where basically he's not praying in a normal way, so to say, in the official way that one or he himself may have done in the past in a certain prescribed way, but just his prayer. He's not reading books too much, or basically at all, he told me, but he's basically gazing now, like trying to contemplate and meditate and reflect and discover and find the divine, whatever he's gazing, basically. And so that was a very, very special moment also when he described how at that point of his life, that was the natural way his prayer took shape, so to say. And he didn't feel the need of adopting certain particular formalities because the essence of prayer was manifesting in gazing in whatever direction, which kind of parallels with the vision of the most elevated devotees we speak in our Gaudiya tradition, which are able to see everything in God in everything, and rest in that, so to say. Also, he shared with us some more confidential, intimate, personal things that, due to their nature, are not to be shared publicly here, but we also appreciated his openness to that degree. And then after this second meeting, he, at the end, before leaving our place, he offered to also sign whatever books we may have from him. So he very generously signed some of them, all of them. And then when we were taking him back to his to the Center for Action and Contemplation, he made us stop for a minute in his hermitage where he lives by himself, which is kind of a few blocks from the Center of Action and Contemplation. So he point to that as well to us. And at the end, we took him to the Center for Action and Contemplation and took some final pictures under a very big and famous tree, an old tree that is there. There are a few pictures that I've shared earlier today here. You cannot see the whole tree there because it's too big, impossible to take one single picture and encompass the whole tree. But we take some last final pictures there before bidding farewell to each other and continuing our journey, as I shared in the album today, in the picture album. So it was a very beautiful experience. The overall experience was, again, meeting with a very beloved friend and elder, as equals in one sense, but at the same time he always remained an elderly figure. So for me it's kind of the ideal also mood that in our tradition it is described between how the relation between guru and disciple should develop, as we were talking our current Guru Tattva series, Vishram Bhina Guru Seva. One is to serve the guru with deep trust and affection. And so the guru remains an elder, but at the same time there is intimacy, there is lovingness, there is affection, there is trust, confidence, and he will notice that. He will appreciate, Richard will appreciate the trust that was the natural currency in our exchange, and he will repeatedly also say, both before leaving us and when we met him, he will say, thanks for trusting me. So you could, and in a very humble way, in a very moving way, like implying, no, I'm trying to give something, you are opening yourselves to what I'm trying to give. Thanks for opening yourself to my own opening. Thanks for trusting me. And you could feel he was really grateful for our visit, although we were the grateful ones. And of course, that's a natural result of an ideal meeting. Both parties end up feeling extremely grateful, extremely humbled by each other, by the other's presence, extremely fulfilled and blessed. So that's how we have felt, myself, Sumati Bhaktarasa, and Richard himself, by the arrangements of Sri Hari. So everything closed in a very beautiful, open way, and of course the invitation remained open for further visits in the future. let's see what Bhagavan has in plan. So this is a very brief recap. Again, I'm just trying to summarize more than 6 hours of meeting and many other things that happen in between inside of our hearts. So hopefully, at least on some little degree or way, I've been able to convey a little bit more of what was this experience and meeting with Father Richard Rohr. Father Richard Rohr ki jai. Gaur Premanand Hari Bol.